So Bozo's exclusive is pretty OP. I'm not entirely sure what Zone was going for with it. It is true that it came out the same time as Rosenseal, and Rosenseal can sort of counter Bozo, but I've already seen in a couple games, and maybe you've seen already as well, that Rosenseal sometimes is not enough to stop the debuff meta. If it's just Bozo alone, she can usually handle it, but I've seen some weird games where people just hand out Bozo, Licorice, and Reen to people, and they think Rosenseal can save them. And if Rosen is your only healer in that case, that's kind of unlikely. A few turns of focused debuffs can strip away Rosen's shields pretty easily, and if you decide not to equip your Rosenseal with a silence immunity of some kind, it's probably even more hopeless. This is all assuming a 6-star Rosenseal, by the way. You see people throwing caution to the wind when they have a 4 or 5-star Rosenseal. I'm not saying it's not possible to win with a 4 to 5-star Rosenseal against a huge debuff team, but you can't just stand in front of them and just face tank everything like I've seen some people do. So with that in mind, here is me playing a game where I try to face tank a bunch of debuffs, while I don't even have Rosenseal in my box yet. So you can see my opponent here has double Bozo already. Lots of cancer coming my way. He also picks Yusuke, which is also bad news for me. I mean, he can debuff the hell out of me and then Yusuke can clean up, even with the 2 tanks I just chose. I do have Chris on my side, and instead of picking Matthew last for a faction buff, I actually picked Tiaris last, who has no faction buff. But she does have mass heal. That 1 debuff dispel will surely save me against this onslaught of debuffs. You can also see that I actually forced him into a Rosenseal pick for his final pick. It might seem a little bit odd to some of you because Rosenseal is often touted as an insanely good healer, but I think the other 2 healers I'm facing off here are a lot worse. Sophia can soft buff his entire party and has rewind for both his Bozos. Liana has Act Again, which for P2 is still very, very powerful. And when you think about Rosenseal's most famed ability, which is her ability to prevent debuffs, there's really no debuffs on my side here. So anyway, you can see that my team is an Army of Light team. You got a bunch of heroes from the Langrisser games, and I'm facing off against their classic perennial enemy, the evil clown Bozo. I guess I can't really call it an evil team. He has the 2 Bozos, but everybody else is a good guy. Well, I guess Rosenseal not so much. And Yusuke is a demon, so he gets half credit. He's sort of evil. So even on turn 1, he's already starting with the debuffs, just putting down those tiles with Licorice. So I can't really do anything here except for approach him slowly and hope he gives me some kind of opening. And here is that potential opening I've been waiting for. So Licorice runs forward and casts Dark Despair. It's definitely a pretty strong Licorice. I mean, just look at how much damage my Tiaris is taking. Nevertheless, I set up the Attack Blessing, just trying to threaten him a little bit. So here he actually runs in with an untransformed Yusuke and tries to kill my first Landius life. He actually gets pretty close, but an untransformed Yusuke just has a lot of loss in power. So I cast the Act Again on Leiden, getting ready to pull someone in. So he clearly knows something's going down, so he decides to put up Rosenseal's shields. I do think it's likely that Leiden could have pulled Yusuke in and killed him if he didn't heal. But even if he didn't heal, I honestly was not at all interested in killing Yusuke. Yusuke was not my concern here. Instead, I want to pull in Liko. Even though she blew both her AoEs already, she did clock one time, and I want to do my best to try to equalize the debuff situation here. So, of course, Leiden does not get the kill here. Leiden's pretty bad at doing damage. I mean, it is possible to build Leiden to do more damage by using double blue enchant, bracer, and all that stuff, but I feel like that's just giving up way too much tankiness to widen Leiden's kill list a little bit, which isn't that big to begin with. So as you saw, thankfully his Bozo was still out of range, and I was able to take out Licorice with Chris's 3-cost skill. I think Arteon was just being a little bit too impatient here. I think if he slowed down a little bit, I would be in a way worse situation. And here we got the Black Hole, and just look at that, so many debuffs. Oh my god, so many debuffs. Thankfully I got Chris here to spell some of these debuffs. And you'll also notice that actually all 3 of my healers got heal blocked here. If he had another AoE character, I'd probably be screwed. Although if that was the case, I probably would have just used Sky Archer plus Liana. And here's just me healing up some more. That's really the problem with my box sometimes. I just have very little offensive pressure on my opponent. So you end up seeing a lot of situations like this where we just kind of stare at each other for a while. I do decide to spice it up a little bit by having Leiden run in here. His movement lock aura is still up, so he can lock down Landius and attack Rosenseal here. It doesn't really accomplish anything other than just maybe spook him a little bit. You'll also notice that I'm not using the Sky Archer's Dispel just yet. These days when you want to use Liana to fight a debuff team, the timing of using the Sky Archer's Dispel is really important to having it actually be useful. And now we got the Earthquake, just Oh my god, Miracle Advent, Umbral Murmur, and a Clock! And you know, really, that's the ultimate annoyance when you're fighting debuff teams. Everybody is using Clock, and that also factors a little bit into whether or not you should use the Sky Archer. To me, the real killer from Bozo is Heal Block. Silence, of course, is also a big killer, but at least it's easy to access Silence immunity for your healers in a piece of equipment that's actually useful. There's really no reason to be wearing a Blood Pact on your healers, and getting heal blocked and then getting followed up on with another AoE is what really kills any sort of Dispel comp in this game a lot of the time. That's also why, as you saw, I once again did not use the Sky Archer's Dispel. If I don't get a lot of really deadly heal blocks at the same time, to me it's better to just play it safe and keep the Sky Archer around, don't use him yet, and heal up as best as you can. So just now you finally saw me use the Sky Archer. So this is because of the combination of me getting lots of really bad debuffs there, plus the fact that now I know that Bozo is on cooldown, so at least I have some breathing room. Now I have to try to figure out some kind of approach to him, and of course if you pay attention to damage meters, you know that I have to actually be active here. I can't just stall this match because, you know, he had 2 AoE characters, he did tons and tons of damage to me. There's almost no way I'm going to be able to catch up to that. So I attack Blessing on Chris. Unfortunately he's using Lancer Landius, so I'm not going to get any sort of class advantage here. But at the very least, Chris can punch Landius decently hard, so I can at least start putting some kind of offensive pressure on him. So even though his Bozo spent all his skills just now, he did transform his Yusuke, so he is pressuring me with that. But usually having a double tank strategy is pretty good at being able to prevent Yusuke from running wild. So he's busy rebuffing up here and trying to stay within his own guard range. Rather than trying to use Chris to get probably a very unreliable kill on Landius, I instead decide to start setting up in the middle. And he of course can also tell what's going on here, so he also starts to move into the middle. But at least for me, enough turns have passed now so that my Layden is actually ready to go again. He ends his turn so that his guard drops, but he's still standing next to the 2 people outside of Landius' guard range. Obviously I don't want Yusuke just running around shooting his Dark Tincture at unguarded people, but with this act again, it means Layden is once again ready to pull someone in, and he of course starts attacking me with Yusuke. Pretty good damage, considering that's a normal attack. Tiaras is not very popular anymore, but at least for situations like this, she's just really nice to have. So this time, instead of just sniping any character, I decided to actually pulling his Landius. Lancer Landius is pretty good nowadays, lots of calves running around, kills other Landiuses, but in a matchup against Layden, because he only has 3 move, his Layden's -3 movement aura just completely locks him down, unless you breeze him obviously. So here once again Chris shows that she is really terrible at killing Landius. Well, obviously she's pretty bad at killing any tank. I guess it would be nice if we could have an off-healer DPS character that could Pierce Guard. Wink wink, nudge nudge. So at this point I think the match is more or less over. I kind of have my pick of the litter here as to who I want to kill. His Landius is stuck in place and can't really do anything. And he already burned his 1 heal because he needed to make sure Landius could survive. So here I decided it's probably best to go for the squishiest unit here, Rosensteel. Between her being probably the most likely for me to actually kill, and the fact that, you know, after she's dead she has no healer, that should mostly clinch the match, despite the fact that his Bozo is probably about ready to cast Black Hole again. But I still have my 2.5 healers, plus the Sky Archer, in case that happens. So that's just a little showcase to show that it is possible to still out-heal a debuff comp, but it's definitely really messy, as you saw here. 0 out of 10, would not recommend.